Welcome to the Life with Joey Calvo Podcast. I am Joey Calvo. I do apologize for the technical difficulties that's going on today. Please continue. Before we do that, please continue to help the victims of the California wildfires and the Texas floods. They do need our help as they're rebuilding. All right. So today we have our guest, Aaron Marcus. If you ever saw the movie, give me one moment. Bear with me.
Was it a Man Called Otto? Was that the one you were going to refer
Man
to?
Called Otto, yes. With Tom Hanks. This guy might look familiar to you. He is part of that movie. This is Aaron Marcus. And Aaron, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks, Joey.
Okay. So explain to me what led you to become an actor.
Yeah, so I took a little bit of a different route than most people I know. A lot of times people grow up knowing that they always wanted to be an actor and they do everything they can to break into the industry. For me, it was kind of a backwards thing where it's a very, very long story. Here's the short version. I went back to college for a second time after dropping out, and I needed a part-time job while I was studying to try to get into physical therapy school. And I met an actor who did TV commercials, and he was explaining what he did. And I thought, wow, that sounds like fun. It sounds like a great part-time job, pays well, sounds enjoyable, flexible hours, perfect for a college student. And I started actually working as an actor part-time, and I did that for 2 years. And at one point I decided, you know what? I'm loving this so much. I want to give it a shot. And I decided to give myself 1 year to try it full time, to see if it's something I liked, to see if it's something that my stomach could handle being a freelancer and not have a steady income, and see if I could get work. And that's been going on for a little over 40 years now.
Okay. So in reference to what was your first acting job that you had?
Yeah, the first acting job was a commercial modeling job. And most people have no idea what that means, so I'll explain it to you. So normally you mention anything about modeling and everybody thinks of fashion models, very tall, thin men, but mostly women doing runway walks, and they are promoting high-end designer clothes. Those are fashion models. There's a whole other world of modeling out there that has nothing to do with fashion, and it's called commercial modeling. And that was my very first job. Commercial models are sometimes incredibly handsome, beautiful. I don't fit those categories, but they also need regular looking people who can portray all different types, people with great bodies, people who are out of shape, tall people, short people, doctors, lawyers, students, babysitters, politicians. And these are the people that you see in magazine ads, newspapers, on brochures, on packages, billboards all across the country. And I love doing commercial. I've probably done, 900 commercial modeling jobs, because for me, it's an acting job. There are no lines because it's a still picture. But still, I have to be able to show believable looks and real expressions just with my face and body language. Okay.
All right. So you get into acting. Your first job as a commercial actor is commercial modeling. So what led up to being in a movie with Tom Hanks?
Well, that was decades of experience. And I was still am working with an agent. I have agents in many different markets. And as a matter of fact, just so people know, I've got it's a YouTube channel, and I just post helpful quick tip videos. And the one that's going to be going up next week is actually about, should actors have more than one agent? So, yeah, I have multiple agents, and this one happened to be based in Pittsburgh. And he contacted me and said, there's a movie coming to Pittsburgh. Am I interested in auditioning? And I said, sure. And so I auditioned for the film. And there were a couple different roles that I read for. And I was told that I got cast, and they told me what it was.
Mhm.
And they said, oh, and by the way, we're going to have a stunt double for you. And the reason for that, and it made sense, is because my character, my conclusion was he had a heart attack and falls off the train platform, and a train is coming. Now, I did go, there was nothing in the script that said anything about why this guy fell. Was he committing suicide? Did something happen to him? So I spoke with the director prior to, as soon as I got onto the set. I said, look, here's my idea. And I did a lot of research. I was hoping he would agree with me because I did a lot of research. Fortunately, I've never had a heart attack, so I wasn't 100% sure what the symptoms would be. But after doing a lot of searching, I got some really good ideas. And I explained to the director, look, I think this guy has a heart attack as he's going to work. And that's what causes him to collapse and fall into the train tracks. And he said, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense to me. And so the way that we did it was I walked over to the edge of the platform. Looks like I'm having a heart attack. And then they brought in a stunt double to do that. And this is a guy, same height, same body type as me. They had his hair looking the same, and they shot him from the back. And this guy was really good. He fell really well. And later in the day, I was asked if I would be comfortable in doing the stunt. I said, sure. Now, meanwhile, I've never done anything like that before. And so I had a quick meeting with the stunt coordinator, and we went over a lot of things. There were also some other stunt actors who I talked to because it was a dangerous stunt. I could have easily broken my neck if you fall incorrectly. And I felt pretty comfortable that I'm pretty athletic. I felt pretty comfortable that I could pull it off. And so, yeah, that's what I did. And they wound up using my take. Actually, I did it twice, my take in the movie. So what led up to it was a lot of years of training, a lot of years of experience. I booked nearly 1,300 jobs, and probably a really valuable lesson for people. Look, you don't want to lie about things. If somebody says, hey, can you speak a foreign language? And you took, I don't know, Spanish, for 1 year when you were in third grade and now you're 50, don't say yes to something like that and don't agree to it. But this was something I thought I could pull off. And I find that a lot of times when I say yes to things that I really think I can do, things go well. And so it was fantastic. And I wound up doing the stunt, didn't break anything. And it's a great scene in the movie.
Okay. All right. So we go through all this. We get to the process of being in the movie with Tom Hanks. So, of course, the next question is, what was it like to work with Tom Hanks?
Yeah, I tell you, sometimes you see people on TV shows or in movies and you think you know who they are. And in real life, they might be very, very, very different. My impression with Tom Hanks was that he always seemed like a very nice guy. I'd never met him before, so I really had no idea.
Yeah.
And I have to say that he was probably, might have been the nicest human being I've ever been around. He was so kind and generous to everybody on the set. Sometimes stars are not necessarily like that.
Yeah.
And he was walking around to all the extras. It was cold outside, and shaking their hands and thanking them for working so hard. And he was also incredibly humble.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who's won, Academy Awards. Because I remember we were sitting together, especially in between takes, and I thanked him for creating such a wonderful atmosphere on the set. And what I have learned is that normally the atmosphere on a set starts from the top, either the director or if there's a famous star, and it filters its way down. If the director is kind of nasty, then everybody on the set's kind of nasty. And if the director's really nice, then everybody is nice. And this was a wonderful set. And when I thanked him for creating just such a wonderful atmosphere, he looked at me like I said something crazy. And he goes, Aaron, look, we're all on the same team here. You know, we all have one goal. We're all trying to do something great. And he was right. And I'll never forget that line. It really was very, very powerful to me. And he was 100% accurate. You know, we were all there, whether it was crew, whether it was catering services, other actors, extras, cinematographers, didn't make any difference. We were all there to work as hard as we could to make something great.
Did you get a chance to meet Rita?
I never read the book. No.
I said Rita, his wife.
Oh, Rita. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said read it. Rita Wilson is so kind. And it's funny you brought her up. She was one of the producers. I think if I'm not mistaken, she might have written a song or two for the movie as well.
Yeah.
And I remember it was first day there, and I'm just standing around, and some woman walks over to me. I didn't know who she was, honestly. And she said, "Hey, I just want to thank you for being a part of this project." And I said, "Oh, you're welcome. You know, thank you." Yeah. And then I turned to somebody later. I said, "You know, who was that?" He goes, "Oh, that was Rita Wilson." And I mean, to have a producer walk over and just thank you for being a part of the project. And I remember I saw her about a week after I did my stunt.
Yeah.
And once again, she walked over and she said, "Hey, Aaron, hey, just wanted to make sure everything okay. You know, your body held up okay." And I said, "Yeah, it was great." Once again, she was so wonderful. I really liked her a lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She's a great actress, you know, as well as Tom being a great actor. And, you know, my days of Tom goes back to his early TV days, you know, on Bosom Buddies with the late Peter Scolari.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then going from there and, you know, becoming a big hit from there. And, you know, with Sleepless in Seattle, big. Matter of fact, I was in the hospital last week, and I'm going through the TV, and he was in, I think it was The Green Mile with David Morse. Yeah. And I was watching that, and I'm like, you know, seeing him in that, even though I didn't watch the movie, you know, but to see him in it was, you know, something, you know, great. And then, you know, this movie that he was in with you, and then, you know, of course, going out to even expand to being a Walt Disney, you know,
sure,
you know, portraying Walt.
And also all those other, was it Sully he was in? And then he was the captain when the pirates from the pirates tried to take over the ship. I just forgot the name of the movie. I mean, he's just been in so many different. Wasn't he also? And maybe I'm wrong. Wasn't he in that movie? It was based on a true story of a guy. Was it Tom Hanks who was in the movie portraying this guy who lived in an airport? He was a refugee, I don't know, from like Afghanistan or Pakistan, and he lived in an airport for years. Okay. Was that Tom Hanks?
I think it was. I think it was.
It's just.
I don't remember the movie. I know. I remember. I do remember the scenes from that movie that you're talking about.
Because that real guy, I think he passed away fairly in the past year or two. Yeah, and, I mean, it was an amazing story, and I'm pretty sure it was him. Not 100% sure, but he's just taken on so many different kinds of roles.
Yeah, and he did such a great job of it too. You know, he did great job. You know, I mean, I remember when he even did A League of Their Own with Madonna and Gina Davis, and you know, and Rosie O'Donnell, and even that turned out good. You know, being a manager of a female baseball team, you know,
Well, he
I
was
mean, that
also
was
in the Elvis Presley movie, where he played Colonel
he played
Parker.
Carl Paul. I didn't get to see that.
I never
You know,
saw it, but it
yeah,
was really interesting. One of the things that we were talking about
yeah,
was I remember we were just sitting around. And I said, "Well, after this movie, I said I hope you get a chance to just sit back and relax a little bit." And he said, "No," he goes, "Actually, I've got a big press junket on this movie that I did recently."
yeah,
And that was the movie. And we were just
yeah.
talking about, what it's like doing those press junkets, and um, it's a lot of work doing those things. But that was the movie that he was going out to help promote.
Oh wow, yeah, yeah. That of course, that turned out big. Um, yeah, it's like it's almost like any movie that Tom Hanks does, it just turns to gold. I think he even did Fred Rogers to a point.
Oh,
Um,
oh yeah,
yeah,
Mr. Rogers.
yeah,
Yep,
he did. I think he did Mr. Rogers
he
even,
did.
and he even made something good off of that. But the the best thing that I always enjoy when Tom does, if anything, is not the movies. It's really not the movies. It's more of the original comedy based on what like I mentioned before with Bosom Buddies, and him being on Saturday Night Live and doing skits on Saturday Night Live. I mean, he really takes it out there and makes it enjoyable and funny, for all to watch. So let's get back to you.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Not
spoke
as
about
interesting as Tom Hanks, I can tell you that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we can't make the show all about Tom.
It's the Tom Hanks show.
Yeah, I know, but he's not on the podcast. We're not interviewing him officially. Now, if we got him on the if I would say, hey, if you can reach out to Tom and say, hey, can you come on this podcast with me? It'd be a whole different story. Then you would have been forgotten, and I would have felt bad. But so you also wrote a book on how to act and model. Can you explain a little more about the book?
Yeah, so it's called How to Become a Successful Actor and Model. And actually, if people want to take a look at it, you can either find it on my website. I have a bunch of different domain names that all point to the same website. Here's the simplest one: howtomodel.com, just HOWTOMODEL.com.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you can read about the book there. You can also get it on Amazon as well.
Mm-hmm.
This is not, I really don't necessarily consider it a straight acting book, although I do have acting information in there. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's really more of a cookbook. It's for people who are interested in getting started in the industry, whether it's commercial modeling or acting. Maybe people who have thought about getting into acting and modeling, but just never did. And now they're thinking, well, maybe I could do this now. I find that because I also do private sessions with people, and it's really interesting. Most of the people who sign up for private sessions, I also have something called the Actor Career Program.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly women, and not exclusively, but I'd say there are more women than men. And what I think happens is, I think women are in some ways are braver, and especially women who have been doing things for.
But we lost air in a minute, so I do apologize for that. I apologize for all these technical difficulties, folks. It's it's one of those days where everybody's is on the internet. So with T-Mobile, when you do lotteries and stuff, it's not the greatest. So I do apologize. Let me get him back on. We got him back. Hold on.
Okay, here we go. All right, take two. So what I was going to say is it really How to Become a Successful Actor or Model. It's a cookbook. And what I was saying about women, There are a lot of women who have done things for other people all their lives, whether it was spending a lot of time with their kids, doing house stuff, whether it was just
Aaron,
doing things.
I have to stop you for a minute, Aaron. You got cut off and booted out during your speech. So I apologize for that.
That's okay. All that I was going to say is the book, How to Become a Successful Actor Model. First of all, you can see it on the website, howtoactamodel.com. You can also go to Amazon to order it there as well. And it is a cookbook that is meant for people who are interested in getting started in the acting or modeling industry, or for people who want to take their career to the next level. And you're going to learn everything from how to create the right kinds of headshots. Most people are clueless, and headshots, it's the most basic material that all actors need to have. And I can tell you, in some ways, your headshot is more important than your acting skills, because if you have a really bad, ineffective headshot and you are submitting it for auditions, there's a good chance you're not going to get the audition. You'll learn how to put together a great resume, even if you're just getting started and have no experience. There's a lot of information you could put in there that will be very helpful for finding an agent. How to put together the right commercial modeling shots. You don't want to just go to a photographer, take pictures and walk out of there. There's some very specific things that you need to do. How to find agents, how to find photographers, how to shoot home auditions, how to market yourself and get work on your own, dealing with contracts, auditioning. These are things that most people are clueless about. And what I also find is that a lot of times people have an interest in acting or modeling, and they might be very talented, but they just don't know how to go about running their business, like putting together a headshot and resume. They get started, they struggle, they can't get the representation they want, they get frustrated, and they drop out. So that's why this book will be invaluable to you. And like I mentioned earlier, I do have this great acting and modeling quick tips channel. Just go to the website again, howtoactamodel.com, and you can click on, there's a icon for YouTube, and you can subscribe right there. And even on Instagram, it's just Aaron R. Marcus, AARON RMARCUS on Instagram. Follow me there. I post great videos there that will be very helpful to people. So, and I do private, like I said, I say 5 days every month. I do private mentoring for people. Once again, just go to the website. You can read all about that.
Okay. So now that we got, now another thing about you that, we're gonna scrape across. You know how
that sounds painful.
Yeah. Most of the most actors usually travel between LA and New York. You manage your career without going to LA or New York. Talk about that.
Yeah. So now I have worked in New York for many, many, many years, but I never moved there. My home base is in Maryland. And, looking back on it, it probably wasn't the best business decision to stay in Maryland as opposed to going to LA or New York. I can tell you, though, life-wise, it was the greatest decision I ever made. And as high of a priority as work is for me, it's not number one. And it really is my family and my life. So what I chose to do was stay in a secondary market, which Maryland is considered a secondary market. It's a smaller market. It's not LA. It's not Atlanta. It's not New York. It's not Chicago. But there was work in the area. And what I would do is I would wind up commuting. So I would head up to New York, depending on how I got there, might spend 4 hours traveling each way, do a 2-minute audition, and then go back home. And so for people who are just getting started in the industry, and like, I'm not saying You shouldn't go to New York or LA. Who knows? You might get, discovered overnight and things might start happening and you'll get your own TV series in 3 weeks. Those things could happen. I doubt it. And just like there are people who will win, $100 million buying a lottery ticket, it can happen.
Well, it's 1.3 billion now. So.
Yeah. And actually, my wife just bought a couple of tickets. I think she bought 2 tickets, and it's a good investment because we'll get a chance to talk about what we would do with the money if we won it. But the thing is, my recommendation is for people who are interested in working as an actor or commercial model, get started locally. And then what you want to do is once you've gotten experience, then you can start expanding your area. So I went from Maryland and DC. I also started going into Virginia. Then I started heading up to Philly. Then I went into New Jersey. And after about 4 years, and I had a pretty good amount of experience, I felt I was ready to give New York a try. And it was the greatest thing that I ever did. But you also don't want to head into an area until you are ready, because for a lot of times you only get one opportunity, let's say, to meet with an agent. And if you walk in and your resume isn't good, you don't have any experience. Once again, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's difficult when you are going and auditioning with people who might have had their own TV series or, were stars in movies, and they're looking at you and they're saying, well, this person hasn't done anything yet. And once again, there are stories of people who've been in big movies, had great parts that, really didn't have much experience. There was that movie, was it The Blind Side? I think that was what it was called, about the football player who played for the Baltimore Ravens. And the guy who portrayed the main guy, he had almost no experience. And now I haven't seen him since, but that doesn't mean anything. Maybe the guy is working a lot. I don't know. But look, my suggestion, get started locally and get as much experience as you can, and then start expanding your market if you want to. But look, for a lot of people who might have full-time jobs, they might be a full-time student, you don't have that much time anyway, to try to freelance. So to try to spread yourself so thin, it just doesn't.
Well, that's what we're doing now with this podcast. we're spreading ourselves thin. I actually had thought about being an actor at one time.
Really?
And in fact, I actually started thinking about this. And, you're welcome to put me out there. You got this podcast to go with and saying, hey, any producers or stuff, like, hey, I just did this podcast with this guy and he's kind of interested in bringing back a game show. Remember the show Tattletales?
I don't remember that one.
Okay. It was with late Bert Convy, and there was 3 celebrity couples, and they would, tell their tales and stuff, and the audience won money for it if they, for their questions when they got them right. So if there was like if a question was worth $150, and there was the red, the yellow, and the blue section, and it was all divided. So there was like 100 to 150 in each section. So if a couple won $150, each one of those audience members won $1, and they got their money that same day. It's on Buzzer.
Okay.
After match game. Matter of fact, it actually surprised me about the late Gene Rayburn, that he was really he was actually Steve Allen's first co-host of the Tonight Show. When the Tonight Show premiered back in the 50s and 60s. And I never knew that, Gene Rayburn was actually part of it as an announcer. And then he did because I saw it on, matter of fact, I saw it on YouTube. and he passed away. I didn't realize he passed away in 1999. But he was great. But he was always on Tattletales. Him and his wife Helen.
Well, don't give away your idea for a new game show because somebody might steal it. So, work it up, and then maybe you could find an agent to pitch it for you or a manager.
Yeah. Right now we're working on GoFundMe right now set up because I actually reached out to different businesses for putting this podcast on the radio. I've been reached out by the World Broadcast Network TV to have these podcasts put on an actual TV channel on like Roku, Apple TV, etc. But they wanted like $3,600 a month.
Wow.
Yeah. So, we had the GoFundMe for that. But at the same time, I also, wanted to take this podcast, besides upgrading the equipment and, doing like meet and greets, where, former guests would come to Atlantic City for a couple days, for a weekend. And, people would come up and meet them up close and personal and, maybe share things with them. And then another one, you probably heard of Howard Stern.
Sure.
Of course. And so one thing he do when he was on regular radio was he would always do a birthday show. So my 55th birthday's coming up, and I was like, you know what? I want to do something like that. Have like 50 to 100 people that I know in this little restaurant in Cranberry, New Jersey, and do a live podcast from there, and chat with the former guests and stuff. And
that sounds interesting.
Yeah. And when I saw the bill to that, I was like, oh boy, this is gonna be fun. And how am I gonna do that? I mean, it's like the hotel is like, they say it's 800 feet, but it's actually 1.3 miles away from the restaurant and all that. And then, so I turned around and I was like, well, maybe if I move it to the hotel, cheaper it'd be that way, and having this place, cater it. And the reason I'm in reference to this specific place is I know the owner, so at the same time, I'm doing this, I'm plugging, their restaurant, and, and I do that off and on. So if you're ever in Cranberry, New Jersey, okay, Aaron, go to Zinna's Bistro. It's off of 130 in Cranberry, New Jersey. It's on Cedar Brook Road.
Okay.
I believe. And
hey, maybe you could have a barbecue at your house and invite people over. That way you don't have to pay for No.
I live in Philly. There is no such. Now, if I lived in Northeast Philly, that may be a different story in reference to a barbecue. But a barbecue around here would be like, I'd have to close the street off.
Yeah.
That's no. Believe me, I would not want to do anything like that in Philly. Like I said, something like that would be more interesting. Plus, it's more because being, that these podcasts are on YouTube, doing it in a restaurant type setting would make it a little bit more interesting. Mm-hmm. And even if you go on some of my old other podcasts, you'll see me in different rooms. I've done podcasts from Atlantic City, usually from a hotel room in Atlantic City, because I get rooms in Atlantic City usually once a month, and when I take advantage of that and I do a podcast, I'll do them from there. Like I just did one. I did two from resorts. I just did two from resorts. And I think I did two from Caesars. Either Caesars or no, it was Caesars. Was the last two I did. So, we travel sometimes in reference to it, but something like that. I rather not do them in Philly because I'm just tired of Philly, flat out tired of Philly. So, what's next for you, Aaron?
Yeah, you never
know. What do you have coming up?
So, it's a funny thing as an actor. I mean, we typically never know. I mean, like, it's one thing if you are a star and people are sending you scripts all the time. But, for regular actors like me, you never know what's going to pop up. Just submitted for a feature film. They're shooting it up in Buffalo. We'll see. I just did a commercial modeling job, and that was last week, and that was a lot of fun. Hadn't done one of those for a little bit. And I'm, just out there and searching around, and you just never know what's going to be around the corner. Just auditioned for a national TV commercial. And so, but, once again, you just never know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And in reference to, if anybody does take remaking Tattletales, good luck. Because I mean, they just did a new version of Hollywood Square. Actually, Drew Barrymore picked up Hollywood Squares and started to run with it, and actually, it's starting to become a hit. With Nate Burleson hosting, and she's in the center square, and picking up after the late Peter Marshall. And he did a great job when he hosted that show back in the 70s. And then they trashed like Martindale in reference to Tic Tac Doe with Brooke Byrne hosted it, and it just I saw it once and I'm like, no.
I tell you, it's amazing. Just all the names of all these people and the hosts and the show. Yeah. That's really incredible. But one thing I was just going to add in there. Yeah. Hey, look, for anybody who has an interest in acting or modeling, look, don't live your life always wondering what if.
Yeah.
Go out there and give it a shot. And I can tell you, for me, even like with going to New York, I could live with trying it and not having any success. Now, I wouldn't be happy about it, but I could live with that. What I couldn't live with was not giving it a try, because then I knew I would always be wondering, I wonder what if. I'd see a movie, see a TV show, and I'd always wonder, I wonder if I could have done that. And that's something I didn't want to live with. I didn't want to have nightmares and dreams about that all the time. So, and really, this is more universal too, for anything in your life. If it's something you want to do, there are a lot of people who might tell you not to do it. It doesn't make sense. You're being crazy. Like, I heard that stuff as well. And the important thing is, don't just, quit your job and say, I'm going to be a full-time actor after having no experience. But do it in a smart way, just like with any industry. And I know that sometimes people are told, oh, you're so funny, you're incredible, you're beautiful, you're a great actor. And meanwhile, you haven't done anything. And people will say all kinds of things to you. And it's really important to filter everything they say, whether it's positive or negative. But like with any business, if you want to open up a restaurant, don't just plunk down a tremendous amount of money and open up a restaurant if you haven't had any experience. So learn as much as you can, whether it's reading my book, whether it's taking my private sessions, going to Instagram, my Instagram page or YouTube channel. Learn as much as you can and just enter the industry in a really smart, educated way. And I can't guarantee you success.
Yeah.
But I can guarantee you will give yourself your best opportunity to have success when it's built on information that you've learned from people who are working in the industry.
Well, with you, Aaron, I'm going to consider this my acting reel. So, so you can share this with, like I said, any any producers or directors that you may know and say, hey, for this guy, for someone, there's this podcast host in Philadelphia that wants to, do something,
Okay. Sounds good.
You have my permission to use this video for it.
Okay. Thank you.
Or any of my podcasts in reference to that. Because like I said, I don't mind acting. Matter of fact, I'm going to throw something at you, Aaron, that you probably would be surprised. No, I didn't do any acting jobs, per se. But my neighborhood has been in movies, believe it or not. And, of course, the major one, being in Philadelphia, outside of... when I lived in the Fishtown section of Philly, I was working with the mentally disabled, and I usually drive down Kensington Avenue. Well, my late father-in-law, God rest his soul, he said, they're filming Rocky 5, I think it was Rocky 5, in Kensington. And I said, really? So I drove down Kensington Avenue one night, and sure enough, there was this little section blocked off on Kensington Avenue, and I found out they were filming parts of Rocky 5 right there.
Cool.
Now, I live in the Grays Ferry section of Philadelphia. Okay. Now, of course, the movie that was done was Creed. Do you remember when Creed was running down underneath the train tunnel?
That's
Michael B. Jordan. This was Michael B. Jordan.
Was this the latest one or the next?
Yeah,
to the last?
the first one.
As a matter of fact, that was the one that I was in. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, then you were in my neighborhood then.
Actually, where I worked, I think it might have been, was it Temple? Did they shoot at Temple? Is that where all the boxing scenes took place?
I don't know. I don't know in reference to that. But when he ran under the train tunnel, when he was running and rebuilding himself back together, etc., building back his confidence, and he was running down the train, running down the street. I live 2 blocks away from that train tunnel.
Wow.
Matter of fact, there was a building on the corner of 25th and Federal. I don't know if that was maybe that may have been for the boxing, but it looked like it could be used as a boxing gym.
Well, we shot in a university, and it was in the gym.
Okay.
And
so Temple's about 2 miles away.
Yeah, actually, I remember when I saw him, it was kind of unbelievable because I remembered him as a little kid on the HBO show The Wire.
Oh, wow.
And to see him as this little kid to all of a sudden this guy who's got the most incredible body I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty amazing. And he seemed very, very nice.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed him.
Yeah. Well, like I said, that was actually parts of Creed was filled because I was selling papers at the time that Creed was being made. And all of a sudden, at night or, I'd come home and I'm seeing all these film trailers and everything.
Yeah.
All, right on the corner. And I'm like, what the hell's going on?
And, and that's another reason just to always think, look, not every, city is going to have a movie or a TV show shot there, but sometimes you just don't know. And so even if you're living in a smaller market outside of New York, LA, Chicago, Atlanta, there might be projects coming to town, but, even besides those big things, there also could be commercial modeling jobs, TV commercials being shot in the area. Mm-hmm. And so you really want to learn about how to go about finding those things, even if you live in a small market.
Right.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah. And then even recently, as much as I think as recent as last year. Yeah, definitely last year. I actually found out that Queen Latifah and Adam Sandler were down 25th Street at the park when Sandler was filming the basketball movie. And found out he was there. And I do remember as well going back even to Mile with David Morse. David Morse did
was that Hacks?
Shows. Yes,
Hacks.
He did Hack in Philly. Yes, and they did it right. And I remember the taxi because I was on the bus and I'm seeing the taxi they used in the scenes, and I'm like, wow, And to find out he was filming here, and they even filmed another show on the other side of me recently too. I forgot what the name of the show was. I think it was for HBO or Showtime.
I know what you're talking about with Kate Winslet.
No. I don't know. This wasn't a Kate Winslet one. This was somebody else. This was an unknown type. I never heard of the actor really, but they were doing a show on It was like he was it was like kind of off the mob thing, and he was in the area, and they had blocked off the other side of 26 where I live, and over towards the park in Grace Ferry, and they parts of the show here.
There've been a lot of
I forgot the name of that show though.
There are a lot of things.
The Kate Winslet one was out of the city though.
Oh,
that one was out of the city. She was a detective or something like that.
Yeah. And the what's it? The I See Dead People movie. I forgot what's the name of that one?
The Sixth Sense.
The Sixth Sense. That was shot in Philly.
Yeah.
Philly area.
Yeah. So of course, a lot of movies shot here. But like I said, Aaron, you have permission to use this video.
Okay. Thank you.
To show because to show any producers or directors, or even even if they heard of the game show I mentioned, they're like, hey, maybe he might be good for it. I'm not great in a suit, but but I would be happy to do that show in particular because I enjoyed that show, and like I said, Bert Convy was good as a host, and like I said, Gene Rayburn was on that show off and on. Richard Dawson did that show.
Yeah.
Even believe it or not, Bob Barker did that show. Even Joan Collins did that show.
Wow. Didn't know.
Because most of the time they did the late 70s, but it came back in the 80s for a little bit, and they did he brought it back in 82 to 84, and then you have like Jenna Lee Harrison.
Wow.
But
hey, Joey, I got to run pretty soon, but I just wanted to let you know this was really fun, and I hope this information is really helpful to people. And I hope you land that TV show gig. That would be pretty cool.
Oh yeah, and thank you so much, Aaron, for coming on the podcast. Thank you everybody for watching the Life with Joey Calvo podcast. God bless you all.
See ya.
Take care.